There's a framework that we're going to introduce that will help you along the way to becoming more Yoda, less superhero. It's what we call fixer, fighter, or friend. Fixer, fighter, or friend are 3 different leadership archetypes that are ways that we show up as a superhero without realizing it. The more Yoda, less superhero concept is fairly broad. And while it can be instrumental and helpful to say, oh yeah, that's right, I want to be more like Yoda, less superhero, it's also helpful to be more personalized and be more refined, because what superhero looks like changes for you depending upon where you are in your career and your experience and your own personal history. So let's get into the 3 leadership styles: fixer, fighter, and friend. So the first is the fixer. The fixer is the person who is watching every detail. It's the version of leader or manager who is everywhere in the details of the work and is fixing the typos and fixing the glitches in the code and making sure every line in the proposal is perfect and rearranging the slide deck if that's what's going on. But it's somebody who's incredibly detail-oriented, meticulous, and making sure that nothing gets shipped, whether it's to a customer or to some other part of the organization, unless it's perfect. Now, being the fixer, that's cool, that's a great strength. But what happens if you're too much the fixer? Well, what your team will tend to do is they will come to rely on you for all of the fixing. And so you will find yourself, or you're likely to find yourself, more and more in the position of getting work that isn't totally finished. The content is there, but the polish is missing. The T's aren't crossed, the I's aren't dotted, whatever form that takes for the work that your team does. So if you find yourself in that position, that probably means that the fixer is the archetype that you need to work on. Let's move on to the fighter. The fighter is the 3 of the leadership archetypes that's really based in ideas and moving the conversation forward. And of the 3 archetypes is most focused on driving to the outcome. Fighters are great. Fighting for ideas, fighting for what's important, fighting for what matters. You need that style as a leader in the modern world, whether you're a senior manager, an executive, or someone more junior on the team. You need to be able to advocate, you need to be able to push, and you need to have ideas, and often unconventional ideas, for how to move things forward. What's the cost? If you're the only fighter on your team, if you're the only one coming up with that new idea, if you're the only one asking those what-if questions, you're missing a development opportunity for your team. How can they stretch into some of those what-if questions? How can you hold them accountable for pushing the conversation forward, for advocating for a specific point of view? That's by you knowing that you're operating in fighter mode, stepping back a little bit and creating the space for them to step into it. That's how you most actively work with the leadership style we call the fighter. The last of the 3 archetypes we call the friend. The friend is the version of leader who's really good at establishing rapport on the team, who's really good at maintaining and creating good relationships and keeping a good vibe on the team. Just like the other 2, an incredible skill, useful, and it's a great thing to have. And you need that, not just you, but you need multiple people thinking about the culture, thinking about the vibe. But if you as the leader are operating in friend mode, that means you become the place where everybody goes to work out their personal disputes, to work out their drama, and your office becomes the receiving ground for way too much of the psychological energy of the team, because they know that if they come to you, you'll help them work it out. So if you feel like the friend is the leadership style of the 3 archetypes that most fits you, then you're going to look out for opportunities where maybe you don't fill in the gaps in those ways. Starts by acknowledging, oh, wait a second, I've got myself into the position where the team maybe thinks I'm too nice, where the team thinks or assumes that I'm not going to hold them accountable to do the difficult thing or have the difficult conversation. So by knowing that you operate in that style, now you have the information you need to start to make some different choices. It doesn't mean that you'll never be the friend again. It doesn't mean you'll never be the fighter or the fixer. It means refining and working on that balance so that you always keep that strength with you, but you don't overuse it to the detriment and to the disempowerment of your team. As we go through these 3 archetypes, you might find resonance with more than one. You might find that you're a blend of the 3. So don't get too fixed on being the fixer, the fighter, or the friend. Just choose the one that's most relevant for you today and focus on that as your next step of growth. And that, like all the other things that you're learning in this course, is great material and insight to take to your next meeting with a refound coach.